Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and this week's cold snap, believe it or not, might have some positive effects on your fishing. We should probably see these codfish off of Block Island starting to stack up a little bit more. We should probably see the stripers in the Housatonic and the other holdover rivers starting to pile up a little bit more. And for all you guys that are hard up for hard water, you must be salivating right now because things are firming up quick. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
And before we get started, I just want to let you guys all know I haven't forgotten about my needlefish contest. I just haven't had time to go through all the photos yet. So tune in next week. I'll have a little report at the beginning showing the winners. And I really appreciate all your participation. And probably going to do another one in February, so stay tuned for that as well, and get an opportunity to win some cool stuff. So let's start up in Massachusetts. And if you live in interior Massachusetts, 30 miles, 40 miles from the coast, maybe even a little less than that, you're probably seeing some safe ice at this point. It's been pretty windy, so some of the bigger bodies of water are still open, or maybe just frozen around the edges or at one end, and definitely probably not safe. Some of these smaller sheltered ponds now have safe ice, and guys are getting out on them. I haven't heard of any wild catches yet, but I'm seeing a lot of pickerel, of course. I'm seeing a lot of panfish, some largemouth, and a surprising number of trout. A lot of guys are traveling into New Hampshire still, and they seem to be doing well on trout up there. I'm getting more and more stuff from the northern portions of Connecticut and interior portions of Massachusetts. And, we got a lot more cold nights coming and a couple more of those, painfully cold days on the forecast coming up. So I'm expecting to see hard water making a charge south. And, we may see some ice on some ponds by the end of this week that haven't seen ice in at least a year. So that's something to look forward to. Open water fishing-wise, the Plymouth area, most of the smaller ponds now are skimmed over. They're not safe enough to walk on yet, but obviously with the skim ice on them, you can't fish them from shore or from a boat. So we're getting more and more, sort of sequestered into Cape Cod right now. I was out on the Cape last week fishing with Ian from the Goose. We pond hopped and caught a ton of trout. Caught some, I think we got one smallmouth and a handful of yellow perch. Really good bite on a cold day. Definitely something worth looking at. We put a little video together, which you guys will see probably in next week's report. And, we were using small jerk baits. He was using a little 2 3/4 inch Bakers. I was using a Vision 110 Junior. And, it's funny, it didn't really matter if, because I'm like a real slow wintertime fisherman. I like to put long pauses on my jerk baits. Ian's much more active. He's working the bait all the time. And, they didn't seem like they showed a preference for either method. So, it just goes to show how aggressive those fish are in some of these Cape ponds. Definitely worth taking a look at, but with all this cold weather, you should call ahead. Call the Goose Hummock shop. Call one of the other shops on the Cape that's closest to the pond that you're hoping to hit, and just ask them. Because if you're making a drive from off Cape and you get there and it's saran wrap all the way across, you're not going to be happy. But for now, all the reports I've heard, the ponds are still open. Still very good fishing going on out there. That's definitely the place I would head if you're in Massachusetts and looking to get the rod bent. Heard no saltwater reports this week. No bass reports to speak of. So really the two games in Massachusetts right now either go interior and ice fish or hit the Cape and look for trout. And that's the story that I got for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Over in Rhode Island, we have that inshore bottom fishery that's still going strong. Cod fishing is good and getting better now. As I talked to multiple guys this week that, charter fishermen and shops that cater to their kind, they're all really excited about this cold snap because they feel like that's going to draw some of these offshore codfish into the ledges that they typically fish around Block Island. It's going to concentrate the fish a little more, and they're expecting to see an increase in action, more numbers overall, and just a better bite, more reliable bite. That's what everyone's kind of crossing their fingers for. Right now, Still a lot of sea bass out there, which obviously you can't keep, so you're picking through sea bass you have to release. There's a surprising number of scup out there, which are still in season. That they're open year round, so that's something that you can target. And so far, codfish numbers are somewhere between 10 and 20 per trip, starting to get a little bit bigger, and we're all kind of hoping that this cold snap is going to do what they say, and it's going to fire up these fish offshore. Other thing that's going on is that we're finally seeing an uptick in holdover striper action in Rhode Island. All these ponds, all the ones that run behind the breachways, up in Point Judith, and then all the way up into the bay. Any place you know of that's holding holdover stripers and has held holdover stripers in the past has got them again. And they seem to be making a better showing for themselves over the past 10 days or so, where December was kind of not that good. They seem to be holding outside. Or they just hadn't made their way up to where they usually are. But things are starting to come together a little bit better now. We'll see if those places don't ice over. That fishery should hold up for a while longer. Also still hearing some reports of trout from some of the inland waters in Rhode Island, but anywhere further than 20 miles inland right now, you're probably going to start to see some ice. So something you're going to want to keep an eye on. And that's a story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Over in Connecticut, we've got a couple exciting fisheries to talk about there as well. The cold snap, or at least the beginning of it, has seemed to congregate holdover stripers, which is what you pretty much expect. When the water's warm, those fish tend to move around a lot more. They're looking for the bait. They're moving down river and up river with the bait. But once it gets really cold, they tend to ball up, and they tend to kind of stay within a much smaller area. So a lot of these fish have moved back up, like into the top of the Housatonic, for instance, and they're kind of balled up right now, which is a good thing. Another good thing is that we're starting to hear more and more striper reports from the Thames, which we haven't heard in quite a few years. That place has had about a decade of off years, and it seems like things are getting a little bit better there. I can't say that I think it's great yet, but it's a positive move. It's a movement toward going back to what it once was, and we can only hope that as these years progress and we've got some more small fish around, that maybe the Thames is going to see a resurgence. But definitely worth giving a shot, especially if you live in the area and you're looking for a way to put some fish on the rocks. I'd give the Thames a try. You don't need to drive all the way to the Hoosier. Trout fishing wise, things are still holding really strong in all the TMAs. The Salmon River, of course, the Farmington. I'm hearing things from the Mill River, Hammonasset. I'm hearing things from the Norwalk River, and many others that I haven't mentioned. Also, don't forget those 10 lakes that were kind of force-fed a stocking in mid-December. They're also giving up good catches of fish. So the trout fishing in Connecticut is very good. We heard from Derek Kirkpatrick from Connecticut Fish Guides again. I'm going to throw his video up right here. Let's hear what he has to say about the fishery.
Hey Dave, coming to you today from my fly tying room for a weekly river report. Farmington River is fishing pretty good. Your bite windows are kind of squeezed. You still want to target your clear sunny days. Those are going to give you the best temperature spikes, and the bugs are going to respond to that, which will correlate with the fish having longer, larger bite windows. So on a tough day, being kind of your overcast days, you may be grinding for a fish or two, but you can still have good on overcast days. Today, one of my clients, it was overcast today, and he ended up getting like a dozen fish and one fish pushing 18. So it's not that you can't do well on overcast days, but you definitely want to target some kind of sun spike. That's what's going to heat up the rocks, get the bugs moving around. Same thing kind of as our last report, your midges and pheasant tails in like size 16s, jigs and streamers can all produce. If it's extremely cold, we're headed for a bit of a cold snap, so you could see the river get slushed up. So you want to be careful about picking your days right now. If the river gets slushed up, you may only have a window of from like 1:30 in the afternoon to 3:30. So that's just something to be aware of when you're planning a trip out. But there's a lot of other stuff going on right now. You know, we're gonna have ice soon, so ice fishing is gonna kick off, and the state stocked some adult 5 to 6 year old sea forel and brown trout, and those are ranging anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds. I'm not going to go through the lakes that they stocked them in. You can look that up on the DEP's Facebook site on their page. But if you are getting out, you know, again, you want to have fingerless gloves, a good pair of socks. If you're losing feeling in your feet, get out of the water and swing your legs, and you know, don't kill yourself out there. Usually the warmest part of the day, the most comfortable part of the day is going to be your best fishing. So good luck to anybody getting out, and back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Derek. Always appreciate the videos. Keep them coming, my friend. Really like your insights. But that's, you know, those are the two main fisheries that are going on right now in Connecticut. Not hearing a lot of guys fishing out in the Sound. Not a lot of guys making the run to Block, especially this week. I know the Black Hawk didn't make a single trip last week. Just didn't want their, their customers to be uncomfortable. It's cold, windy, and lumpy out there. But, you know, when we get another good day, you're going to see the Black Hawk going out there. You're going to see a lot of these guys from Point Judith going out there. And I think we're going to see a change in that fishery, which is pretty exciting. And, you know, it's pretty amazing that we have these fisheries that last us right through the wintertime. Maybe by this time next week, we're going to hear about ice on the coves in the Connecticut River and the first pike getting pulled through the ice. One thing I do know for a fact, when those coves ice up, those first few days are always the best. So definitely keep an eye on that ice. Make sure it's safe. But, you know, if you can get yourself out there right when it hardens up, you've got a really good chance of pulling a big fish through the ice. And as I say every week, if you're not a subscriber to The Fisherman, head over to the website and check us out. We've got a lot of stuff to offer with reports that cover the entire East Coast, pretty much from Delaware all the way up to Maine. We have articles to tell you how to fish and where to fish within that entire region. We've got tons of videos here on YouTube. We've got a lot of other stuff going on, tournaments and all kinds of stuff. It's really a worthy cause, really it's an institution that's been around forever. A lot of great information, some of the best writers you're going to find anywhere. At the very least, though, give us a subscribe here on YouTube. Click that little thumbs up button, give me a like, and hit that bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. I hope you guys get out this week. I know it's cold, but, you know, it really feels like you're stealing one from Mother Nature when you catch one when most other people aren't fishing. Good luck if you go try, and we'll see you guys next week.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious English choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.